We don't usually show a lot of cartoons on Living St. Louis, but tonight we've got a lot. Actually, editorial cartoons. Patrick Murphy visits with a guy who drew a lot of them and probably somewhere along the line really got a rise out of you. But then, that was his job.
Between 1962 and his retirement in 1997, Tom Engelhardt created more than 8,000 editorial cartoons for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, using his pen as a tool to take a stand on such issues as civil rights, the Vietnam War, the environment, and local politics. And for 35 years, he maintained a passion for social justice.
You come across something where you think, my gosh, they can't do that to us. So you get kind of incensed, and that's the incentive to start doing the cartoon, to get across the idea or your viewpoint that you want the reader to pick up on. The cartoon is always a weapon of attack. Almost every cartoon you see, every good one, is something attacking somebody else or somebody's opinion, a bill that they might be working on, or a proposal that a president might make. You go after that thing instead of the person himself.
And though a veteran cartoonist like Engelhardt makes it look easy, he says it's not.
It's some kind of mysterious process, and you might go through 10, 12, 15 variations and not like any of them, and then you might start over again. It never really came easily doing caricatures. I always kind of struggled, and it would take me a while to work out politicians' features, and I always thought eyes were very important in the caricature, because Nixon had those shifty eyes, way up under his eyebrows. Lyndon Johnson also, I think as he got deeper and deeper into the Vietnam War, his eyes got shiftier and shiftier. So it takes a while. It's something that evolves over months. At least for me it did. I can't just sit down and bang out an instant great caricature.
Engelhardt's work is part of a 20th century line of great editorial cartoonists who worked at the Post, including Robert Minor, who drew for the paper from 1907 to 1912 and later earned fame as a communist and the highest paid cartoonist in America. Daniel Fitzpatrick followed Minor, drawing over the next 45 years some of the most recognized cartoons of the 20th century and providing inspiration for the young Tom Engelhardt.
I just really was attracted to Fitz's cartoons, and he would do those World War II cartoons, especially, the big mechanical swastika that was rolling across the Eastern European countryside. So he was the big influence at a very early age. And of course, Bill Malden's cartoons from World War II were printed in the Post-Dispatch. And I really liked those, too, because he took the poor dog-face's position, the poor infantryman's position. I really kind of modeled myself after Honoré Daumier, who was the famous French cartoonist. He worked for about 50 years in the 19th century, and I just loved his work, whether it's his painting of the peasants and the poor people riding the railway in the railway cars, or when he did cartoons, the pompous lawyers that he always did, or he was very Catholic in his criticism. He would go after people who were acting snooty at art exhibitions, or at the opera, the theater. He went after all those types.
Following in the Post tradition today is cartoonist and illustrator Dan Martin, who draws The Weatherbird, Postcard from Mound City, and recently authored a history of St. Louis cartoonists, including Engelhardt.
Tom makes me appreciate how much humor can be used to get a point across, and that's what I've watched for years since I was a kid, and that's what I appreciate most that Tom has taught me. It's an extraordinarily difficult job, a lot more difficult than people would realize. This is coming up with a pertinent commentary on deadline 6 days a week. And Tom's case decade after decade, extraordinarily difficult. And the other thing I think is that sort of in every era of modern cartooning since the Civil War, there's always been people who treat it with great conviction and people who are just trying to make big funny noses and get a quick gag out of it. And Tom has always treated it as being a social critic, that you can really do some great good with it.
One cartoon is not going to change a lot of people's positions. I think there's a cumulative effect. So if one cartoon maybe can get some other editor or cartoonist thinking about a problem and saying, oh, I ought to say something about that. You know, it might be like a little pebble before the avalanche starts. That's how I kind of viewed the cartoon. Well, if I can add my 2 cents here, maybe it'll help a little bit.